Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
Star Trek podcast.
She's always asking me about the youngest little onlys, the little ones. What if they get sick? Who takes care of them? Do they have enough to eat? Where do they sleep? I'll just tell her. One of you fell down and got hurt.
Me, say it's me.
All right, you.
But Grups, they know things and all that. You know, I bet they'll be able to do it with one person less.
Not one. 2. Because he'll try to find her.
Who? Who will, Miri?
The captain. He'll try to find her, but he won't. Mr. Lovey-Dovey.
Lovey-dovey. Bonk, bonk on the head. Bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk. Bonk, bonk.
Do you want to start the podcast?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if you're ready. If you're ready to start
ready.
the podcast, we can go ahead and begin.
I was born ready. I was ready yesterday.
So how do you
That means I was born yesterday. You think I was born yesterday? Apparently I was, because I was born ready, and I was ready yesterday.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take that as an indication that you're ready to begin the podcast.
Today, welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Oh, you're quite literally beginning. No, please do.
Oh, no, you do it.
No, I insist.
I thought
I insist.
I thought that's what you were asking.
You were doing the voice and everything, so go for it.
Welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast.
Good.
My name's Dan.
Your name is Dan.
That's Patrick over there.
I'm Patrick.
You see him over there? Look over there. And you don't if you're in a car, don't look over there. Look on the road. Eyes on the road.
All right.
We are sans Jesse today.
Yes.
He's put on his Picard ninja outfit and he's off. On
one of them secret missions.
Oh, I should say that he put on his Picard assassin gear.
Assassin gear.
That's what I'm going to start saying from now on. Assassin gear.
All right.
And he's off doing something with that. I don't know. We don't want to dox him, so.
All right. So you've welcomed the audience to the It's Got Star Trek podcast. What other information do we generally supply?
This is episode.
We provide various bits of information related to the podcast.
This is episode 163.
Sounds good to me.
God. Well, that rhymed. That's like 3 in a row for me. We are reviewing the original series.
Yes.
TOS to some of you.
Yes.
Others, it's the original series. To some of you, it's both. Others just call it Star Trek.
I'm just Star Trek.
It's a season 1.
No colon.
Season 1, episode 8. Although Paramount Plus listed as season 9 or season 1, season 9, episode .2. No, it's season.
This is classic TOS production order versus airing order versus all sorts of other business.
Episode 9
pilots and the 6. Well, and sometimes it's episode 12. I think it might have been the 12th episode produced, but it was the 8th one aired.
There's like 3 different ways to interpret this.
Yeah, season 1.
It's like
TOS.
It's like, do you remember those Transformers that could turn into 3 different
Transformers.
things? They had like a giant one that could turn into like. Couldn't it turn into like? Wasn't there one that could turn into like a robot dude, a shuttle, and a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something? I don't know.
I mean, you can make up whatever bullshit you want. I'll believe it. I'll believe it.
Yeah. Well, Paramount Plus listed as episode 9, and what Patrick was saying.
Oh, they probably count The Cage as episode 1 on Paramount Plus, which is crazy.
It's just wild.
Anyway,
it's called Miri.
Yes, it's called Miri, and what led us to select this particular episode of Star Trek to discuss?
Well, this will be like the
built up
the
here.
5th week in a row that we've had a discussion surrounding this. So I think we can start abridging our discussion.
I'm all about abridging the discussion about the algorithm. However, these are evergreen episodes. People do bounce around.
Do bounce.
They do bounce around. as is evidenced by
the
downloading patterns. And so somebody might jump right into this episode. There might be a new listener.
Wow.
Right?
Weird.
Yes. I mean, it does happen from time to time. There could be people who only listen in some sort of peculiar order and they haven't gotten around to this particular episode yet, so they're going to save it for later.
Yeah,
right?
I like people doing crazy stuff every once
People
in a
do
while.
all sorts of weird shit with podcasts. You might save up a bunch of that. You might be like, you know what, this podcast I'm not going to listen to for 4 months, and then I'm going to listen to all the episodes I've saved up during that 4 months. I'm going to listen to them all at once.
I've decided I'm specifically doing that with the new Hulu series about the Chippendales with Camille Nanjiani.
Ah, yes.
I saw the first 2 episodes. I enjoyed it, and I'm like, I want to wait till they're all done. So
I
can
frequently
watch
wait until the episodes are all banked up because it can become quite the frustrating situation. Although I do generally lean towards the weekly releases on streaming platforms because I do enjoy having the discussion. Now, some of that may be a bias due to the fact that we are a podcast who makes our bones, makes our business by having weekly discussions about new episodes of Star Trek. Except in this case, when we have old episodes, and in that scenario is when, how do we select the topic? How do we do it, Dan?
Oh, algorithmically through computer software
That you have designed.
I've designed
proprietary Dan software
using Python as the scripting language on and MongoDB, which is a NoSQL, no SQL.
Is that how it's pronounced?
Or no SQL. I don't know if it's NoSQL or NoSQL. Is that what the question you're asking?
No, is it Mango or Mongo?
It's Mongo.
Mongo with an O.
And not Manga. Mongo.
So, yeah. Okay.
MongoDB, which is a no SQL.
MongoDB's nuts.
Yep. Precisely. But it's a database where you're essentially interacting and viewing the database as if you were an object in a debugger in a piece of software, if that, as opposed to like your standard database where you're like select star join table and it shows a 3x it shows a
You're just mocking a whole class of databases.
But no, I mean
you did
star. I did a
mocking voice.
I did. Maybe there is some kind of
just like star.
Let's join
these tables.
Let's join create drop.
All right, okay. So you've created an algorithm.
Maybe I secretly, that was done by accident. I think I might secretly hate SQL.
Yes. Well,
relational databases, but
long story
useful.
short, I think the place to abridge it is to discuss how it works. You can go back and listen to previous episodes if you want some more details, or if you really want some details, email us. If enough people email us, we'll produce a bonus episode that'll be 4 or 5 hours of Dan going into very specific detail about how he put together the algorithm and how he's been tweaking and adjusting it as we've gone along, because it does occasionally spit out hilarious results.
Yes, and I will when we do that podcast, I will make sure not to prepare. That way it'll be even longer and more rambling and nonsensical.
Yeah. Ideally, if it's too coherent, where's the charm?
Yeah, right.
What's the point in that? This is not a tutorial. There is some degree of entertainment imparted in this process. This interaction between our voices and the audience's ears.
And if it's one thing people who may not be so into programming enjoy, it's when somebody rambles on about specifics and minutia.
And it's
about
well known that people really like it when podcasts just delay talking about the topic.
Note taken.
I'm just saying, they love
it's
it.
Their favorite.
All the podcasting magazines, when you go to the bookstore, and they have the Podcasters Monthly.
The Borders books.
Got a picture of 3 white guys.
Crown books.
On the front, with microphones. Like, these 3 white guys test out the microphones.
Right. Yep.
Anyway.
So
Star Trek. Miri.
But two things we're going to be this episode. We're not going to dilly-dally, right? Because we don't dilly-dally anymore. And we're going to be calm.
Oh, yes, we are definitely going to be calm.
We're going to be calm.
Yes. And
that doesn't mean we can't be wild and crazy guys, but
we can do so calmly.
We can do so calmly.
And with a sort of a measured temperance.
Right. Well put.
Yes. And for the fact is we want to practice being calmer and more relaxed.
We don't want to stress people out.
As a matter of principle. Also, Dan and I have to try extra hard because since Jesse's not here, normally Jesse plays a certain stabilizing force because I believe that neither Dan or I want to make fools of ourselves in front of Jesse. So it keeps us in line a little bit.
Yeah, we don't want to be, it's certainly true. I don't want to be
he's not, but Jesse's not here.
The three people dynamic can be tricky because that third person, and the roles can change from person to person at any given time, but that third person can mediate, or they can be used to gang up, and so it's kind of.
Are you talking about podcasting or lovemaking?
Well,
hopefully the former.
And not the latter. I guess that's just three persons dynamics can be applied. That three person dynamics that can be applied to any situation. See, what I appreciate is
I am a robot.
You let me finish that before you made fun of me. That was good.
I let you dig your
dig my grave.
Your comedic hole a little bit.
You leave it to me for a while, and then you laugh at me, and I appreciate that.
And then I laugh at you.
Yeah, that works. It works for me. But no, we do what you want. I don't want to tell anyone how to be. Be what you want to be.
All right.
I'm not going to tell you to be any different than who you are.
I want to be calm and chill and discuss the Star Trek, the original series episode,
and
Miri.
Yeah, and I know that I can be sometimes get a little worked up. It's probably partly why I don't drink energy drinks anymore.
Do you think there's anything in this episode that you might end up getting worked up about? Are you going to get worked up about the fact that this teaser of the teaser bit, I think, is one of the shortest, if not the shortest, in all of Star Trek, the original series?
I was not aware of that.
It's only like a minute long or something. Now, later Star Trek series, I will calmly note that later Star Trek series sometimes had teasers that were like 15 seconds. Yeah. And other times had teasers that were like 15 minutes. I'm looking at you, Discovery.
Yeah, and I think Enterprise, didn't Enterprise have one like the one where they show it was showing Trip Tucker's clone, the Trip Tucker's clone episode where his clone lives for like 2 weeks or whatever. Yeah. I think the opening was just like them giving a eulogy, and then it showed like Trip Tucker in there, and it would like cut away. I think that was like 10-15 seconds.
Similitude. Yeah, we discussed similitude.
Right, yeah. We did. Right. So yeah, this one was essentially they found this planet Earth, or this doppelganger of Earth.
And
they don't
no particular explanation.
Yeah, exactly. They don't explain.
It's the 1960s,
right? And of course, it's the 1960s.
In the 1960s, they were just like, there's gonna be a couple other Earths out there,
right? There's
bound to be a couple other Earths,
but it's hundreds of light years from Earth, and it's not even just the size and density of Earth. It's
got Africa.
It's got
North America,
and it's 6 to the 10. It's 6 times 10 to the first 20. 6 times 10 to the 21st power tons. Power tons.
Well, no.
It's 6 times 10 to the 21st power tons.
Why are you emphasizing it all?
Because they're power tons. It's like there's tons, there's metric tons, and then there's power tons.
No, it's to the 21st power.
Oh.
You know that, right?
I mean,
yeah.
Perhaps I did.
The other thing that this planet also has is a Southern California set town, which is also very convenient for everyone involved.
Right.
But on the high definition transfer, it's a beautiful episode. I mean, all of TOS does so well with the. I don't know. Are you watching on Paramount Plus? Because I'm watching on different copies that I have.
Yeah, Paramount Plus. It did the images of Earth looked really good, and then like
those are the upgraded graphics.
Yeah, the upgraded graphics, right? But but the scenes when they're walking through the street, that was the transfer.
The cinematography is always so great on TOS, even though they knew it was at the time it was going to be shown on these little TVs with the shitty. A lot of them wouldn't even be colored TVs at that stage.
Well, I have a hard time differentiating sometimes. I'm not so good at spotting sometimes when there's backdrops and when there aren't. Some backdrops are obvious.
Oh, you mean the matte paintings?
Well, some of those
because they knew how to fucking do matte paintings back then.
Well, so I was watching a thing. They were talking about the.
Was this thing called a documentary?
It was not a documentary.
Was it a DVD extra?
It was like Was it
a YouTube special?
It was a YouTube. It was
like a behind the scenes YouTube special.
No, it was like the Red Letter Media channel on YouTube.
Yes.
And they were talking about the Ninja Turtles original movie. They were just it was just kind of like, and they were talking about it with this guy who now does the comics for the Batman versus Ninja Turtle. He draws the comics, so he was there, and so it was just they were talking about it, and they pointed out at the end when they're on the roof with the Shredder battle at the end. There's a backdrop of the city. And like as a kid, and I didn't even think about it till later, I never realized that was a backdrop. I was just like, that's
matte painting.
That was just, right.
Specifically, it's a matte painting.
That's what I'm assuming
that's the term of art.
That's what I'm assuming they meant by that. And so for me as a kid, I was just like, that's the city. And like I never thought about it later on going into adulthood. Point being is when there's those paintings done in a certain way, I'm just not good at spotting them because I think I'm like something wrong with my eyeball brain communication.
I do find it fascinating that you continue to frame this as a flaw in your body as opposed to just the high degree of skill of the people actually doing the paintings. Like the same thing in Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Your
Well,
kids
some people can,
like the Star Wars with the lasers and stuff.
Some people are good at spotting that stuff, though, I think. Some people are better than others at spotting that.
I mean, yes, I'll give you that. I'm just saying, don't be so hard on yourself. You're all like, my eyes are not good enough. The algorithms and my ocular brain
I'm
bits.
falling apart.
I can't find the painting.
Wow.
No, it's just they did a good job. It's a combination of the painting being good and well utilized by the director.
So when they're walking through the town, like, and there's the faraway shot of them walking through the town at the beginning, like, there's the back end part, and I don't know if that's backdrop or not.
I don't either because I wasn't looking out for it. But it's a pretty sizable town set that they have. But just the quality of lighting and everything like that, is really good.
Yeah,
I love watching TOS in its upgraded format after having watched it as a kid so much. On a poor quality tube TV on a UHF channel. High up there.
I've mentioned this before, but when the flea market stopped accepting tube TVs back when flat screens first came out, they're like, tube TVs, we don't need these things anymore. We won't even accept them for free. And now, of course, they're all like
now
worth
they're all the
money.
rage.
Yeah,
you can also turn them into a fish tank, and that's pretty cool too.
I hope you take out like the cancer juice in there first.
Well, you take out the tube and then you just replace it with a fish tank that's got like a tube-like curvature.
And you cut out the electricity so you're not like killing the fish.
You add extra electricity.
Right.
It could go off at any time to teach those fish a lesson.
Lesson that they had coming to them. Yeah, then Bones was commenting on the marvelously horrible architecture. He was weird. It was a weird statement. But,
I guess
it was a very Bones-ish statement.
Well, there's a lot of weird statements coming up in this episode, Dan.
Yeah, there's a weird thing going on between Picard. Between Kirk and Miri, which is overt and at the same time not. I don't know.
Let's save that conversation for a bit because that conversation deserves some delving.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, so we have this teaser bit. It's freaky and freaky deaky and all that, and scary immediately. I mean, the costumes of the monster dude. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that monster guy.
Yeah, the whole tricycle business.
Yeah, he had that tricycle. He was like mine. So he's a 300
fibber.
He's like a 300-year-old man-teen. And then he's talking like he's like, that's my trike, Yes. So he's not only 300 years old, he's also a teenager, but he's talking about mine trike. So he had some kind of a mental reversion, I guess, but they didn't really talk about that. I guess it was just what I lament is that I can't go back to having seen this the first time because I've seen this episode a million times and I saw it first when I was a kid and I don't remember how I felt going through and discovering the answer. Cause like going into it, I know the deal, right? I know it's like, okay, blah, 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 disease when they get puberty and all that. So I knew what the deal was with this guy. But I wish I could remember what it was like to like discover that the first time. I bet that was a pretty cool mystery to solve, particularly back then in the 60s. Yeah, but even when you know everything, there's really no explanation for why he was obsessing over a tricycle.
I guess the idea is that they're children.
Yes, they're children.
It's an arrested development.
But he's still, even though you can say he's 300 and you can say he's still a child and there's arrested development, he's still at least like, 13, 14 years old.
I suppose
in mentally.
Well, yes, and the other complicating factor, of course, here is that we are dealing with 1960s children, which for some reason they all looked like they were 35 by the time they were 12.
That one kid, that red-haired kid. He's something about him.
Yeah. So
and then and for some reason the 60s they were all chanting like. They had to start chanting every other minute.
And there's no body shaming going on here. We're temporally shaming. This is temporal shaming. There was something going on in the water or the coal mines. I don't know what was going on. That was leading to some older looking people as kids. But otherwise, I suppose with this guy, you just have to chalk it up to madness because he also said
mad.
Like he was all like the trike is broke. Somebody broke my trike, but that looked like it had been broken for hundreds of years. So
I'll accept
what's he talking about?
And then, with all that knowledge, knowing that this is just some messed up kid mind, Kirk like punches the shit out of that dude 3 times, and it had that classic like. Psh, sound.
Yeah.
Like I used to think when I was a kid growing up, I was like, that's what it sounds like when you punch someone in the face. You don't hear that sound quite so
No,
obviously.
you hear it's like a fleshy, flat, flobby, fleshy thing. But that could be because we're Americans. And so when we throw down, we're throwing down with lots of puffiness around our face and bodies.
That's why it sounds fleshy.
When we're fighting, when we're constantly, Dan and I are constantly getting into all manner of fist fights.
Yeah.
Walking down the street, we start stuff up. You know, that's because that's the kind of
guys we are. So watch out.
Yeah, we just start violent fights, and you have lots of real flat, slappy fighting. It's pretty good.
Slappy fighting.
Yeah, sometimes we do exhibitions where we fight each other.
Yep, it's true.
For money. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Lots of blood.
It's a form of busking.
Lots of blood, sweat, all sorts of fluid everywhere.
Yeah.
Every kind you can think of.
Yeah, but it's for those months that the podcast isn't doing quite as well.
Yeah.
Because there's no new there's no new Star Trek on, so
Right.
people are like,
I know it's out of season.
It's out of season, yeah.
So we have to really find work where we can.
Yeah, which occasionally means we beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
While people throw money at us.
Yeah, we do it at the East Falls Church Metro stop. Hey, you guys out in Falls Church,
I'm
Virginia.
making a local reference. See, this is an example of what happens if Jesse's not here.
Yeah.
All right. So, Miri, they find her in a closet.
Right.
And Kirk does that classic thing where you find a person hiding, demonstrating sheer terror, and you slowly walk towards them and corner them with your hands raised, saying like, "We don't want to hurt you."
Yeah, right. She's like, "Don't hurt, don't hurt.
We don't want to hurt you.
No.
What does God need with a starship?" Anyway, you know, it's to me, it's funny. I of course, I know dramatically what they're doing, but
right. But yeah, you don't.
I think in real life, that's not what you do.
Even if someone's cornered, you don't slowly continue to approach them, and then,
you don't make friends with a skittish cat by chasing it into a corner and waving your hands about.
Yeah, right.
That's not what you do.
That's not what's gonna help you.
You sit down. You sit down on a bench. You're like, "Hey, come over here.
Yeah.
I'll pet you. I'll
pet
give you a
you.
little treat. You want some catnip?"
If you don't want to, that's cool.
Yeah.
We can just sit here for a while.
In fact, fuck you. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, right.
That's when you really get the cat's attention.
Right. When you're
just like, fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you. And the cat's like, "Meow."
That's what happened to me and my cat once. My cat was freaking out at me because I was trying to like pick it up and put it somewhere because it was where it wasn't supposed to be, and it like fucking scratched the hell out of me. And I was like, okay, fine, fuck you then. And then I just like put it. I was like, do whatever you want, like fuck yourself up. And I left, and then the cat like after 5 minutes later all like came up to me. It was like meow.
Yeah.
And it's been good ever since.
Good. It's been good ever since.
It's been good.
All right.
Non-broken cat.
Yes. So they find Miri. Miri immediately takes a shine to our old friend James T. Kirk, James Tiberius Kirk. And this is early season 1, so he's looking extra dashing.
A side note, I guess I didn't underestimate how much Yeoman Janice plays a role in TOS in general.
In early TOS. She actually, there's upsetting stuff surrounding this episode.
Yes.
If Memory Alphas and their sources are to be believed.
I don't know about this.
Who played Janice Rand? Why am I forgetting her name? Grace Lee Whitney, right?
Grace Lee Whitney.
I'm gonna double check
tonight.
that.
Gonna get you tonight. Grace Lee Whitney. Gonna get you tonight.
Why is this taking so
Grace Lee Whitney. It's gonna get you tonight. All right. Grace Lee Whitney tonight.
Yeah, it was Grace Lee Whitney. Did
you find your info you needed?
It was Grace Lee Whitney. But yes, so so apparently after filming on Fridays, they would have like the Friday night, you know, they're done filming
super party.
Probably
had like orgies and
stuff. At the party after this episode was filmed, she was allegedly sexually assaulted by somebody who she just referred to as the executive.
Oh,
nobody knows exactly who that is.
Is it who we think it is?
Well, it could be. It could have been Gene Roddenberry. It could have been. There was a bunch of other people it could have been too. But supposedly she was sexually assaulted at that time. That led to an exacerbation in a pre-existing bit of a issue with drinking and a couple other things. And
she had a pre-existing,
and she was not long after this fired from the show.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So
wait, did you say that
darkness surrounding.
So did you say that she had a drinking issue?
Yes, she had a drinking issue that either was precipitated by this event or exacerbated by this event.
Oh, man.
Whether it was precipitated or exacerbated, at least according to her, then either way, it was because of something terrible that happened to her.
So we don't know who did it, but there is one executive that has been out throughout Star Trek that has been known to be kind of
problematic.
Yeah. So
there's multiple, unfortunately, multiple.
Right. One in particular.
Yeah.
That's too bad. I didn't know that. That's really unfortunate.
It was unfortunate because again, she did play in a lot of these early episodes. Remember, I think this is the 12th one produced. So even though it was the 8th one aired, there was a lot of opportunity for Janice Rand to be involved. Supposedly in the original script, or at least the original thinking, was that she and Kirk would have a much closer relationship, sort of implied romance there, or at least the potential for a romance a little bit more than they had here. Here it was framed a little bit more as maybe Rand having a crush on the captain that's not 100% requited. But since so much of this story hinges on sort of this jealousy that Miri develops for Rand, I guess they were trying to make it a little bit more two-sided, in the sense that Rand would also have had something going on there, but didn't happen.
So then there was Miri, was played by Kim Darby is her name.
Yes, Kim Darby.
Kim Darby.
Who
was in True Grit. Teen Wolf 2 with Jason Bateman.
Oh, Teen Wolf 2. I wonder if she's friends still to this day with Jason Bateman.
The movie that Jason Bateman credits as like ruining his
career and his life.
Yeah, for
by
decades.
extension, his life.
Yeah. So I guess she's been in a couple of things. Nothing that I really remember about. And then Jesse was pointing out, actually, that...
Jesse's usually here podcasting with us. This week he's not.
He's not.
Yeah.
For reasons unknown.
But you were mentioning you were going to quote something of Jesse's, one of his aphorisms?
No, I was going to say that one of the... Apparently, the guy Phil Morris, who played Jackie Childs, which was Kramer's lawyer in Seinfeld, was apparently one of the kids in this episode, although I don't remember if I saw him or not. I don't know. There were a lot of kids.
There were a lot of kids. He is listed as one of the boys wearing an army helmet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so there were a lot of kids, right? Speaking of kids, so
William Shatner's daughters were in here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's good.
I think it's Leslie and Lisbeth. I think were his daughters. The little girl he holds at the end, the little with burly, like a brown sort of thing. I think that was one of his daughters. You can read all about it on the internet, about their time on this episode as very, very young children.
So when they were talking about, they have their language, they have the grups, which I figured out that meant grown-ups before they even said anything. You'll just have to take my word on that. But I figured it out. I was like, grups, that's got to mean something.
Yeah.
Grown-ups. Grown-ups. And then I guess games are called...
Grups.
Those are grups. That's how
That's the Grups music.
That's the Grups music. Games are called foolies.
Yeah.
You got a foolie. That's a weird...
I don't have a foolie sound.
Do you have a foolie right now?
Affirmative. Well, actually, no. The computer said affirmative, but I don't have a...
Do you have a foolie right now?
Huh? Wait, is that a euphemism for a boner?
Whoa, buddy. This is a G-rated podcast.
It's not a G-rated podcast.
I don't think they make G-rated movies anymore. Like all the Disney stuff, cartoons used to be G-rated, but I think they're all PG now.
Oh, they still make PG. They make G-rated stuff. You just don't see it.
Yeah, like
it doesn't come up in your view. It's outside of your ken, if you know what I mean.
Outside of my ken.
It's outside of your ken. It is not in your bailiwick.
Okay.
If you catch my meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's outside of your ken. It's not in your bailiwick.
Yeah. I think
you get what I'm saying here.
I don't, but I think I can intuit what you're saying. All right.
Yeah. Context clues.
Yeah.
All the way, baby.
Yeah. Right. They use another word later on in the episode when they're talking about. She's talking about like so. Okay.
All right. No, it sounds like you're about to make a serious point.
Well, it's just I don't think we ever really find out what Miri's motivation is for trying to foil their entire plan, unless it's to keep Kirk around. But she doesn't really say that.
I'm putting myself in the shoes of these producers, which are men in the 1960s. Mm-hmm. I think they're presenting us with their version of a confused, pubescent girl who has fallen in love with a handsome authority figure and is jealous of Janice Rand, who is a potential competitor and who she might see as a threat because Janice Rand is closer in age and closer in terms of hanging out with Captain Kirk. This is, I think, their perspective of how this would play out. I think we can argue that this is a false, a misunderstanding of how human beings, particularly how women, work. So it is in some ways sort of a male fantasy setup. The beautiful adolescent girl falling in love with the man, and the man kind of having to charmingly be like, well, yes, of course.
And that's what I sort of got from the episode, but I don't think it was presented that clearly. It was just kind of strange.
I think if you were alive during that time period, it would be more clear just because it's a cultural thing. I think they're relying on cultural clues that thankfully have receded somewhat.
That you could be, I mean,
cultural perspective.
You could be right about that. I guess the
assumptions may have been much more common back in the day.
So I guess, and you see the beginning of this where, and if we want to play the game of
play the game,
Dan's got quotes. Yeah. That game.
Play that game.
Play that game. That's to get you psyched for the game.
I don't know how long
this
is going to last.
It's like 10 minutes.
Okay, there it stopped. Thankfully.
So, yes, it was, there was a part in there that involved, Janice Yeoman, and she was like talking.
Yeoman Janice Rand.
Yeah, Yeoman.
Not Janice Yeoman.
Yeoman. Yeah.
It's not like the Middle Ages where she's not Janice Baker or Janice Smith. Her last name does not denote her function, her social function.
Yeah.
Her socioeconomic function.
Mm-hmm. Well, so there's a part where after they're talking about trying to get close to the kids, how they can't get close to the kids. Spock's like, they're all like mice or whatever. And Kirk goes like, I'm gonna try. Miri, come here. You wanna go someplace with me? And then she's like, sure. And then they
like, you want to go back to that closet we found you in, and I scared you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That he wants to go back to the
and I scared
closet.
you, and that's why you like me, because in the 1960s, men thought that women liked men who scared them.
Mm-hmm. So then they leave the room holding hands. They're all holding hands and leaving the room. So that was one of those scenes where it's kind of like, huh? Because Kirk is like playing along with this game, unless you could argue that he isn't aware that she loves it, like. But like, he's got to be aware. He knows he's smooth. Aware. He's smooth. He knows these things.
Yeah.
So he's totally flirting with her, or he's just trying to get her to, or he's leading her on to try to get her to like do what he wants him to
think, and I think there's enough context in the episode that we may correctly assume that Kirk is merely manipulating her, for the purpose of saving everybody.
Right, and
involved.
which is kind of weird. So,
which is weird, except it's better than him manipulating her to have sex with him.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
So,
like to be like, hey, she's 300 years old after all.
So when Kirk,
it's okay. She has the mind of a child.
Yeah. So when Kirk goes to her and says, Miri, you want to go someplace with me? It's first of all, it's playing like the romantic music.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to go to the dance, the fish under the sea dance?
Yeah, it's all romantic. And then you see Yeoman Rand looking all mad. She's all like,
she's a little.
She goes and she what? And this is one of the things where you kind of have to sort of intuit what they're saying, because they don't flat out tell you, which is kind of. I mean, it's kind of. It doesn't flat out say she's jealous, but it seems like she is, because she just goes, that little girl. But it's a combination of jealousy and grossed out, because it's like, because then Spock follows.
It's gross.
Because then Spock follows us up with, as at least 300 years older than you are, Yeoman. Think about it, and like, I'm guessing that interaction is kind of like, first of all, she's jealous because he's with another girl. Plus, she's like 13 or 14, or that's fucking gross. And then Spock's like, well, actually, she's 1,000,000 years old, And there's a conflicting message throughout this episode, because they do a lot of combination of that where they're like, oh, they're just children. But then on the other hand, they'll flip around and say what Spock just said is like, well, actually, they're 300 years old. So it's kind of like they pick and choose when it's convenient for them to decide whether they're children or whether they're older. In the case of Kirk flirting with her, they're 300 years old. But in the case when they have to make their own decisions, well, they're children. So it's kind of,
Well, especially because his style of flirting is not the flirting with a wise older person is the style of flirting with an inexperienced young person.
It's like grooming.
It's like, hello,
Yeah.
do you want to hold my hand and we're gonna go outside?
Mm-hmm.
You want to go do that?
You want to go do that?
Do you know what I want to? You and I want to go do right now, Dan.
What do you want to do with me, Patrick?
No, not with you. I was just gonna say we should take a break.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
we'll take a quick break,
This what I was saying was leading back to something else too, though. So we can take a break.
and then we'll talk about the something else.
The something else.
All right, we will be right back. All right, we're back, and we're ready for something else.
Something else.
Hey there, high energy, but calm.
But calm.
High energy, but calm.
But calm.
Right?
High energy, but calm. But calm. This is me.
It's like when
It's not making me calm.
it's like
I'm very calm. See how low the volume of my voice is.
it's like when people pretend they're yelling by going like, "Hey, I'm yelling. This is my yelling, but in my yelling, but I want to stay quiet voice." You know, when everyone has that voice, right?
Yeah.
When they're like recounting a story and it's a fun story, but then at one point someone
It's a story
starts
that involves them or somebody in the story yelling.
and they're like, and the person came up and said, "What are you doing over there?" And that's you're supposed to know
What are you doing over there? I want to hear. I want to hear that story, Sam.
Hey, what are you doing over there?
What are you doing over there?
What do you do then?
And the guy was all like, "Well, what are you doing over there?
What are you doing over there, Jim?
I can't believe what y'all are doing over there. It's crazy.
What are you doing, Jim?
There's an ordinance against precisely that thing you're doing over there."
That dumb Baninsky thing. Segue. Okay.
I didn't. Yeah.
So that okay, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna ask what the fuck that meant.
So I was just mentioning before
Because I was trying to interpret the language. I think, am I missing a code word?
I think
The
it's
dumb Baninsky thing?
Baninsky.
Baninsky.
I'm thinking it's equivalent to like some dumb butthead thing, or some dumb butt thing, or some butthole thing.
But so for
something
example,
involving butts for some reason.
You're always on about the butts. So,
I don't know what that's
for
about.
example, they use the term fibber, and that's gone out of style. People don't call each other. People don't say like "don't fib." It's just not as common of a thing today. But I think a lot of us are still at least old enough to, we have enough context to we're familiar with the term fibber. Fibber.
Well,
but the Baninsky thing, maybe that's referring to something that's outside of my ken, and definitely not within my bailiwick.
Well, I just typed Baninsky into Google. First of all, I wanted to search for Bobinski instead. He keeps telling me, "Do you mean Bobinski?"
Bobinski?
And Bobinski.
Bobinski.
So, and the first thing that it links to when I type Baninsky is something on getyarn.io, which is some kind of just moving GIF, some GIF, one of those moving GIFs. Okay, this is where we're getting into.
This is another one this is a sound effect that is longer than it needs to be, and does not have the capability of being turned off. Because
there's a volume knob.
Yeah, but that's, fair point. But I feel that that's cheating because this is a website. I think websites should know when a website is called a Star Trek soundboard website.
Yeah,
I would like to think they'd be smart enough to know why the fuck did it have to be that fucking long.
That was fucking like 20 seconds. That's not a soundboard length.
Come on, people.
And that sound, we only needed a few seconds of that particular sound. It wasn't like a quote. It wasn't like it was a quote.
But you're right. I could have on the board. I could have reduced the volume. I'll consider that next time.
But it
did seem like cheating to me.
Was this a sunken cost fallacy thing where we were so deep in it at that point?
Sort of a philosophical sunk costs.
Yeah.
And a certain degree of stubbornness that we both possess.
Sure. So the first, when you type in Baninsky and switch it to make force Google look at Baninsky, the first link you get is to one of the moving GIFs. And it's an image of that scene in Star Trek where, with the quote, she says, "This Baninsky thing, if we get her away, ." And
in other words, it's from this episode.
Yeah, it's just, I keep thinking of Buttinsky, but like
Buttinsky
again with the butts. So, so the quote I was giving before the break was about how
the quote you were giving before the break
was
the
about
butts. The butt parade. You take the butts on parade.
Okay.
Hello.
We're calm.
We're very calm tonight.
We're very calm.
Very calm.
Was
That
Janet.
was a good break, by the way.
When Janice was before the break, Janice was all jealous and talking about. She's like,
oh, that's right. There was another thing you wanted to mention.
yeah, there was another thing.
And then we're getting to there.
Yeah, and before the break, if you missed it, if you like had to go to the bathroom while we were talking,
just click that 10-second back button like 13 times.
Or yeah, maybe more at this point. But Janice was simultaneously jealous and grossed out that Kirk was hitting on a young adolescent girl. But at this point, so right after McCoy was talking about examining the slide, which he wasn't very clear about like what he found exactly, but we're led to believe we're on the way to a cure. But Miri is watching them, right? And Miri is like, oh no. And so, oh no. So she sees that they're close to finding a cure. So I guess she's simultaneously doesn't want Kirk to leave, but she's also a little jealous because Kirk is talking to Miri, or Kirk is talking to Janice at that point, and Miri is witnessing this. And so we see that Janice is jealous of Miri, and Miri is jealous of Janice, and so there's one of those kinds of situations seems to be going on. And then she specifically says, this is reinforced by the idea when Miri says, she goes, we need to get Janice away. She specifically says we need
to kidnap
Janice, which I guess she wants to do a thing where they divide and conquer or whatever. She wants to like kidnap Janice to make it easier to conquer them. But really, the reason is she wants to get it at
it's a multi-layered ruse on the part of Miri.
Yeah, and then
in which she wants to both get Janice Rand out of the picture and lure Kirk.
Yeah,
because she knows Kirk will save him. And then, but what her plan is beyond that, who knows? She probably doesn't have a plan beyond that.
So since they don't outright state that, I guess I should commend them for not like knocking me over the head with the intentions there that I have.
Bam, bam, knock, knock,
bunk, 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 bunk. No, blah, blah. No, blah, blah, blah. So the kids are like, blah, blah, blah. And Kirk is wonderful,
blah, blah.
theatrical Shakespearean line. No, blah, blah, blah. No. But that's when she's talking about this dumb Baninsky thing they're doing. So so I guess we sort of have to soak in the story of love and juicy love.
Well, and we've also jumped ahead a little bit because there's a long time before they actually connect with the other children. We don't even see most of the other children for a very long period of time. It's just Miri for a while. We hear the other children. Yeah. Rocks and other things are thrown. The security guards always. The funny thing is so many of the extras who played like red shirt security guards in Star Trek, they often look like they can't stop smiling, like they're kind of like trying to hold down, like they think it's all very silly or something. So there's a little of that going on here. There's Spock being all like action Spock. He's all like pointing around, being like, "You guys go there." And then when the rocks and stuff start flying, he like does that like patented like puts his hand over his head move. And then when you do see the kids, they start being all like they're all extra creepy, and they're straight up. They have like dolls, and the kids are wearing weird masks and shit.
Yeah, that's the one where it kind of lost me a little bit because I don't know that. I mean, I guess it just seems like kids don't really do that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, kids today aren't as messed up as they were back in the olden days.
That might be.
Have you seen the Halloween costumes kids used to wear in the 1930s and 40s and shit? It was some like grotesque business. They really wore some fucked up bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, it's much tamer now.
Yeah.
They're dressed as superheroes and dead Supreme Court justices and shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be all old man about it, but like, I kind of wish Halloween costumes.
Went back to being scary.
Yeah, I remember going to a party, about 15, 20 years ago. 20 fucking years ago.
All Hallows Eve.
In my mid-20s, I was going to a Halloween party, and I was wearing some like kind of goopy, bloody sort of like costume thing, and
everyone's like, "Oh my god!"
Nobody said anything, but I felt like,
"Damn, that's too grotesque."
Nobody said anything, but I felt like,
why didn't you dress as like Paris Hilton?
But I felt like dorky because like
Perez Hilton.
I felt dorky because everybody else was kind of like they were
dressed as like nurses.
And sexy things, and
I'm a sexy vampire. I'm a sexy vampire. Yeah, I do wish they would go back to the olden days. And these kids were a little bit like that. They were all dirty. Some of them were wearing creepy masks and stuff. And they were saying a bunch of creepy shit.
And there was that like Mickey Rooney guy like leading the whole thing or whatever.
Yeah,
that weird guy.
He had round cherubic cheeks.
Yeah. He was pretty good. I don't think he was credited, but I thought he was pretty good. He was wearing some kind of army jacket thing.
He was wearing what we would wear in the 90s.
Yeah.
To be in like punk rock band
Yeah,
style,
you're right.
You
It
know,
was.
with like army jacket with big deep pockets in the front, even though we didn't have cell phones yet. But you could put like, and they had like an inner pocket that you could fit a 2-liter bottle in either side.
Yeah, if you needed to do that.
To go to the movie theater. And drink a whole 2-liter bottle of warm Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper during the movie.
And then have to pee halfway through and then every 15 minutes for the rest of the movie.
I drank too much. I gotta leave the movie to pee.
But the kids did a lot of chanting. Every time they said something, it's like, we're going to hide. Ollie, Ollie, oxen free. Ollie, Ollie, oxen free.
oxen free. Ollie, oxen free.
And they didn't, when they bonked Kirk, it wasn't a bonk. It was
bonk,
a bunk.
bonk.
It was a bunk. Bunk. And they did a lot of nyanyas. There was one scene where like the crew was standing inside and the kids all were going, nyanya. And I was trying to figure out what was so creepy about it. I think what was creepy about it is the fact that they were in this room. Yeah. The nyanyas were at a singular volume the entire time. Like they were in the room and it's one volume of nyanyas. They get presumably closer to the kids. It's the same volume. So it's like creepy. So it's like you've got this like surrounding nyanyas that are is this sort of esoteric, ethereal kind of like nyanyas, and that was creepy, and that's the shit.
I mean, the other aspect is also that the highly threatening way they were doing it, which also makes whenever you. I mean, this is before Children of the Corn and all that stuff. Right. You know, the concept of creepy feral children is an old one, but well presented here, I think.
Yeah, it was. They were, and so I didn't mind that I was a little like, I don't even know if, I mean. Yeah, maybe in the 60s kids did that, but I don't know. But I didn't mind.
I should hope not. I don't know. There was a lot more leaded gas.
But
you know, the leaded gas that made everyone's brains bad.
Yeah, that's true.
They made a lot of bad brains.
That's true.
I don't know if that's where the band Bad Brains gets their name from.
From leaded gasoline?
I don't know, but it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it would certainly fit if they want to retcon that into their.
It's a good band.
Into their band's story. We could go edit their Wikipedia page. We could look it up on their Wikipedia page
and then
look up Bad Brains and see, does it say this? They got the name idea from like when there used to be leaded gas and everyone's brains went weird. And if it doesn't say that, we could edit it so that it changes, so that it says that.
Well, I see they have a Wikipedia page, but they don't have that reference.
Yeah, this is the part where Jesse would be all like, "Hey, can we talk about Star Trek?
Can we talk? Can we talk about Star Trek?
Do y'all mind if we talk about Star Trek?
Do you mind?
Do you mind,
Captain? Do you mind if we talk about Star Trek?
To Paul.
Captain.
Okay.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, creepy nyanyas, but I didn't mind because it was a nice ambience. I was pretty entertained by the episode. You know, I thought it was entertaining.
Oh, it's a great episode.
Because even though these kids are ridiculous and absurd, it's kind of it was a good ambiance, and it did kind of make me be like, ugh, which is kind of what you want.
The clownishness and part of the conceit, of course, is. Again, I think it only really works if you have to frame it as like these are like 50-year-old white men in the 60s and what they view children as, what they view hippies as, what they view women as.
Right, that's the other thing.
You do have to look at it through that lens, but in that lens, the idea of the kids having that immaturity and framing everything as a game. Again, I don't think real kids in this situation would do it. I think it would be more like, Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
But they're not playing it as Lord of the Flies. They're playing it as like they're just turning everything into a game, including their own survival is framed as a game.
Yeah, and
a foolie, not a euphemism for a boner, as I previously suggested. Maybe
which is
the case.
Good. We're happy.
In this case, it refers to a game.
Speaking of which, McCoy does briefly bring up the idea as how do they continue the line. Thankfully, they didn't explore that question too much further.
Yes.
So they brought it up. They were like, I wonder how they do that. Just kind of like think about it, But like they don't really discuss further. How did they continue the line? Well,
they didn't.
They didn't, I guess, because they're.
Well, they did that. We find out they didn't. They're just old.
They're just old, I guess.
Yeah, they just haven't died yet because there's
So you don't think there's a bunch of kids? You don't think anyone got pregnant at any point during this whole situation?
If we're using the fairly straightforward and simplistic logic of a sci-fi program that's presented a duplicate Earth without any adequate explanation, I think we can also assume that they're being very binary here, which is you are either pre-adolescent or you're adolescent and quickly succumb to the disease.
I guess you die. Right,
so there's no way
like a month of
exactly. So there's no way to be pregnant long enough to have a baby because you will die of the disease by the time you are capable of becoming pregnant.
Right. I guess
At least in this simplistic view. Again, if you're going to be all biological about it, you might not. Maybe that's not the case. I don't know.
I guess that one flew over my head then, Patrick.
It apparently it did. But
Jesse, what do you think? What do you think, Jesse?
Jesse, let us know.
I think you're really cool, Dad.
You know he doesn't think that.
Shit. It wasn't even like he doesn't talk like that. It's like, he doesn't think that.
Jesse talking through his teeth.
Well, speaking of how people think, okay, they were treating this idea of emotional maturity in the same way as physical maturity, which I thought was like not really.
I think it's another conflation that comes from the mind of white males in the 1960s.
Yeah, because part of the reasons, like there's that one part where Kirk goes to Miri, he's like, "Don't you know why you don't like to play games anymore?" That's my Kirk impression.
Yeah.
It's not. It needs some work.
Yeah.
Don't you know? How can you do a good Kirk?
No, I can't.
Don't you know?
Not
That's
really.
why he's Kirk and I'm not.
Shatner's got a unique cadence that a lot of people mimic. You've got a few of your people out there, some of your professional mimicry artists can do a good one. Everyone else just does the old standard, like, I'm Captain Kirk. I'm from Canada.
Don't you know?
I say process.
Don't you know why?
The blood is on your hands. The blood is on your hands.
Wait, this is Kirk. Don't you know why you don't like to play games anymore?
Hey, don't you know? Hey, the reason you don't. Hey there, the process that led to you not enjoying games no more.
Hey there.
Hey.
Don't you know why you don't like to play the games there no more?
Hey there.
Hey, don't you know why you don't like to play the games there anymore?
Yeah.
Miri.
Yeah. You were, I believe, in the middle of some sort of point.
Oh yeah, it's the same reason people still play chess. Chess is a game. People play chess because there's things to learn about chess. Yeah. People stop playing hopscotch because hopscotch gets fucking boring. It's not because
it's bad on the
well,
hips.
yes, there's that.
It's a high impact. You know what's better? Swimming, right? Swimming laps at a regular, steady pace, not too fast.
The point being is, it's not like you hit a certain age and suddenly decide hopscotch is like no fun anymore. Although social pressure and groupthink contribute to that.
Sure.
But like living on an island by yourself, eventually you, with maybe a couple friends who love to play hopscotch, eventually you would get bored of hopscotch, not because you hit puberty, it's just it gets boring because it's like there's not that much to do,
Yeah,
there's not that much to do.
You might play video games instead, for example.
Yeah, I still play video games, Yeah. So then
I also still play video games.
Yeah, we both play video games.
I think we play different video games.
We tend to.
Yeah,
we tend to.
Which is a shame. We used to play similar video games.
Recently, I redefeated the original God of War game, and now I'm playing Star Wars Fallen Order on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
it's like one of the few story focused games that I'm like.
I'm pretty
into.
Dan used to play Age of Mythology with me.
Oh yeah,
and every few years we'd play Age of Mythology and have to figure out how to trick it into connecting over the internet.
Oh my god, that always took like a night. There was a night of that
all
first.
Those command line parameters and stuff, and then you get it working, and then we play for a little bit. But he hasn't wanted to play in a long time.
Oh, you sound sad.
It's okay.
You sound
I just
sad.
play against the computer. I play against like 12 computer players, and
it's literally impossible on harder levels because they straight up cheat. They get more resources without having to do any work. Apparently, They can attack you. They can attack you like right away.
It's just a meditation. It's not meant to be anything other than a calm meditation. Sometimes watching Star Trek is like that. You can pop on an old classic episode like Miri, and just bask and relax and enjoy it as it washes over you, and the little creepy children with the dirty smudges on their face are all like, nah, 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 nah. What are some of their other chants? Did you write down any of their other chants?
I think all they had was nya, 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 nya. And then they had later on a more sinister nya, 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 nya.
Yeah, it was a little more sinister, yeah.
They did the Ali Ali Oxenfree.
Ali Ali Oxenfree.
They Ali Ali Oxenfree, Ali. And then instead of bonk, they said bunk, bunk. That was the scene where they started beating on Kirk, one of them with a giant wrench.
Yeah.
And did you notice that Kirk had enough of that kid and was like, fuck you, kid, and threw him off of a desk?
Yes, threw the actual child actor.
Yes.
Hurled him off the desk. And they used that shot, and you kind of got the impression, I don't want to besmirch anybody because I have no inside knowledge. I didn't read this on Memory Alpha or anything like that. I'm merely interpreting from what I saw on the screen in the final edited version, the high definition version. Is I got the impression that everyone on that set thought that one particular kid was a piece of shit. Because I think nobody wanted to deal with that.
I didn't know you were
kid.
going there.
I think I don't want to state that. I'm positing it as I'm positing it as a theory.
I got it.
That I think I think the rest of the kids in the room almost cheered when William Shatner just hurled that fucking kid off the thing, because it was not even necessary given the context of the scene at that particular moment.
I mean, the kid was done beating him with a giant wrench.
Yes,
so.
And then Kirk is just like, I'm going to awkwardly pull you down, and throw you to the ground.
Yeah.
And then we're going to keep filming and we're going to use that take in the episode because everyone agrees that it's hilarious and you deserved it.
That kid ate shit, like, in that scene. Like, you know, he hit the...
I mean, you're using the term colloquially.
Right. I didn't mean like...
Not literally.
Like William Shatner pooed on him or anything.
Not like a coprophagia. What is it?
No.
Coprophilia? Coprophagia?
Coprophagia is when you eat
Coprophagia is when you eat it. Coprophilia is when you like it, right?
Yeah, when you're
when
way
you like
into it.
poop.
When you're really enthusiastic about poop is when you're coprophiliac.
Oh.
Also, they said, like, there were one part they were going like blah blah blah, and that's when Kirk goes no blah blah blah.
Yes. You mentioned that earlier. I do recall that one.
Why were they saying blah blah? They were saying blah
blah blah blah blah blah.
I got 2 jobs, bunk, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they were mixing up some bunk bucks and blah, blah, blah. This is when they were in the teacher room. They were playing teacher. I don't know, man. Like, there was a lot of weirdness going on in that game. Then I would have liked to learn.
I
would have liked. Oh yeah, this one goes on for.
That one I can pause.
Okay,
that
good.
one I have the capacity to pause.
Boom,
bum, bumpity, bum, bum. Dan is figuring stuff out. He's looking on the internet, looking on his laptop, checking things out.
What were we talking about?
I'm just vamping and tell you. I don't know. You were in the middle of a sentence. I was waiting for you. I was just trying to fill time.
Blah blah. Well, you played that. You played that. Like,
the red alert sound
check. I don't think I was saying anything very important.
Were you? Oh well, then yeah. Then we don't.
Oh yeah. No. The. I think I was trying to say something about that head kid.
The head kid. Who was the kid with the head?
The one who was with the round head and the curly hair.
Yes. What about him?
I don't know.
The army jacket kid?
It was nothing important.
Just because you forgot, you think it wasn't important?
It's just probably something I already said, probably.
What do you mean something you already said?
I probably already said something similar to it.
You think so?
I mean, I was probably just going to say something like, you know, he was, you know.
This is the stage where you're repeating things?
He was rounding up the kids, bunk, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
He was sort of the de facto leader of the group.
Yeah.
And had curly hair and round cheeks.
They were playing
as we said before.
They were playing teacher. You know.
Oh yeah. Don't be loud in class or whatever. Learn, study.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The kids had an odd
the onlys.
perception.
They were called the onlys.
Yeah, the onlys. That was creepy too.
Yeah.
Creepy.
All
right. So how about this? We are drifting down in energy. Let's take another break. And we're gonna do some energy exercises during the break.
Okay.
And then when we come back, we'll be very high energy to conclude our discussion.
High energy but calm.
Of Star Trek, the original series.
Maybe we should just have a break,
Miri.
a break where we just go ape shit and we're not calm at all.
You mean like the last break we just go ape shit?
Yeah.
Like, what? Okay, well, I mean, we can see. I mean, like, do you mean like tear each other's faces off?
No.
Shit?
No, I mean, we can say, instead of telling ourselves to be calm, we should be telling ourselves, go crazy.
Yeah, but that has the opposite effect, I think.
Oh, yeah. This is me being crazy.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of thing. Okay, how about, we'll be right back, and then we'll have all sorts of cool final stuff to say. Like, really fucking, some insightful fucking shit. It's going to come right up. Motherfuckers.
Motherfuckers.
We'll be right back. All right, we're back and we're high energy, ready to go. Ripping faces off.
Yeah.
Mangling each other's genitals.
Yep, that's what we were doing.
See, again, if Jesse were here, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have been talking about like chimpanzee style, just taking turns mangling each other's genitals.
Yeah, Janice goes. She talks about being a kid, how great it would be to be a kid your whole life, with no play and with only play and no responsibilities.
Which I thought was a silly statement to make, given the context of where they were standing.
Right.
The evidence before your very eyes.
Yeah, there's
yeoman.
Yeah, there's no one taking care of you. It's not like kids don't play all day because nobody, it's not like us adults are going around providing things because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's what adults do. We just go in circles and get food, and it's all stupid and a waste of time.
I think it's more fun being an adult. Everyone's talking about how being a kid is awesome, and being a kid is awesome in the context of being a growing person and figuring shit out and gathering knowledge. But when you get older and you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, really.
You just do it more responsibly, and you might have, ideally with luck, you'll have the resources to do at least a great many of the things you would like to do.
Right. And this is
can't do that as a kid. You got to ask somebody.
This is not me being despairing of parents or having parents, but I'm saying it's nice not to, like you said, you can do whatever you want. It's nice to be able to do stuff and not have somebody be worried that somene's going to yell at you constantly about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and then
which is a really nice thing to not have to worry about.
Yeah. Right. So, but basically if there's no adults around, someone's got to pick up the slack, So, I mean, under this form of logic, how would they explain baby vampires?
Okay, I wasn't expecting that. I was about to go into a whole anthropological Lord of the Flies thing about how this is not meant to be a realistic scenario.
Right,
obviously,
yeah.
They're trying to, but they're also okay. It's fine if you set up as sort of a non-scientific. Or it doesn't even have to be scientific. It's just a non-whatever kind of thing. That's fine. But the point is you're manipulating the way reality works for the purpose of setting up a specific moral tale,
which is fine.
But they haven't really done that here, right? I mean, I don't know. It's just early Star Trek has lots of things that are very purely moralistic stories.
There was no real end sort of message.
No, this was more about the sci-fi. This is more focused on the idea of the hubris. If there is a moral, the moral is secondary to the actual plot of this show, because the moral is the hubris of scientists in trying to extend life. Made an error, and they got a monkey's paw result. This is a monkey's paw story, because the monkey's paw result of trying to become immortal is you get to live for a very long time as a child, and then you die as soon as you become an adult. And the reality of being a child is not as fun as being an adult, because being an adult, you have money, and you can go to the store, and you can form loving, romantic, and sexual relationships.
You can go to the concert in the quote-unquote bad part of town,
Yes, the quote-unquote, the part of town that is not bad, but your parents think is bad.
Right, yeah.
But you're you're cool.
You're cool.
You're cool, so you
Come
can go
on,
down there.
I'm gonna be cool.
It's I'm gonna be home before 11.
What?
I can't do that, but the concert goes on. They're gonna do an encore at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And then we want to go out to the Mickey D's afterwards and get some French fries.
And a
20-piece chicken nuggets.
Yeah. Then we're gonna smoke pot. No big deal.
Oh no! Don't tell your mom that. Don't tell mom about the pot.
Don't tell mom about the pot, man. Don't tell mom about the pot, man. Hey, that's my new record. You scratched my record.
Yeah.
I just bought it. But my question about the baby vampires, if you had a baby vampire, would it eventually learn to talk, or be like, hello, I am a baby vampire? Or would, you got this, it's about 6 months old, and it's like, hello, I'm a baby vampire,
Okay, now, are you talking about in the context of Miri's planet, or in any context?
Well, in the context of in the context of Miri's planet, that baby would be a baby forever. But no,
but not forever. It's they're aging.
Oh,
is
you're
just
right.
super
No, you're right.
slow.
You're right. They're aging. You're
super
right.
slow.
Okay, but a 300-year-old baby. No, I guess that it'd be.
So it wouldn't be a baby.
They said that it's 100.
I get what you're saying. You're saying if you turn somebody into a vampire when they're an infant,
right? Well, okay.
Will they learn to talk?
Well, wait. What McCoy said is that they age a century for every month. Oh no, every 100 years they age a month. That's right. Yeah. So that would mean 300 years, 600 years, you have a 600-year-old baby who's 6 months old, right?
Yeah.
And would that, in the context of Miri episode,
we're striking the vampire bit of it.
No, we're getting back to that. But no, we're saying a baby. Okay, yeah, the baby. Yeah, you're right. Striking the vampire.
Striking the vampire.
In the Miri universe, it would say the baby would still be all like goo goo gaga.
Goo goo gaga.
Yeah, goo goo gaga. Yeah.
Goo goo gaga.
It might learn some inflection, so it would just
Prince Abubu.
Yeah,
Ababa.
God. What was that name in the Super Dragon and Neverending Story? Falcor.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I try not to watch that movie due to all the things in that movie that
make
are
me
terrifying.
that make me either
and really
terrified or sad.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah, just all the negative emotions. There's no whimsy to that movie. It's all just sad and terrifying and makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which not to say that it's a bad movie. It's very successful at making me feel that way.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of what it's going for.
Yeah. So now we're on the subject of a baby vampire. Let's say, baby vampire world. In the vampire universe, would a 6-month-old baby, would it be goo goo gaga, or would it be like, hello, I want to suck your blood, I'm a baby.
I want to suck your blood.
I want to suck your blood.
I'm a baby, I want your blood.
Baby, I want to suck your blood.
You know
like
what I
that?
mean? Yeah.
My blood. My blood.
Or no, that sounds more like what's her name from fucking Iceland. Bjork.
I guess that's your way of saying you don't know either.
No, of course I don't fucking know. What are you talking about? You're like acting like I'm responsible for knowing this shit.
No, I'm just asking your side of it. My side of it is the baby at a 600-year-old vampire baby that got turned into a vampire at 6 months would be like, hello, I'm a baby. I want your blood.
I argue no, because there's so much brain development that happens after
Yeah,
that. Now,
there
Miri
is
Planet is different because there's actual aging, but vampire presumes locking somebody into that certain state. So.
I guess you're right in the sense that even though the brain ages not just physically but also through experience.
Yeah.
But you're right in the term.
There's physical stuff.
But
going
there
on
is
there.
physical stuff that goes.
And in the vocal cord area, and the belly flaps, and the wrist, the chunky wrist meats. Of an infant.
But like, okay, in the Miri world, like, there's no. I think their brains, although not fully physically developed, maybe are developed enough that they would learn. They would get.
I agree.
They would move beyond.
I believe we're now sneakily getting to the point that you were trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
The larger point, which I think is an excellent point, which is, to what degree do we buy the emotional age of these adolescent children, of the older ones, because they've been alive so long, and because their brains are presumably sufficiently developed to retain experiences and memories and all that other stuff. Now, there's a couple things that could be going on here. Some of them that they would have known when they made this episode, and some of them which they didn't. One of the things could be is something that's posited to be potentially an issue with prolonging life into the hundreds of years. Is it is possible, there are some theories that suggest, and I speak out of my ass here, of course, but there are some theories that suggest that your consciousness may only be able to sort of have a range of memories, so that as you move through your 1,000-year life, you maybe can only retain 150 years worth of memories, or 100 years worth of memories, or 70. It could be that you can always only sort of be in like a set of bars moving through your life timescape, right? So that's one potential thing that I don't think they necessarily thought of at the time. And again, I'm talking out of my ass, so maybe it's nonsense.
I like the way that ass sounds.
Yes. But the other way to think of it is that they're traumatized, right? That they are there are no adults around. So even though they're living a long time and learning and having experiences, that process is blunted by the lack of adult models to follow.
And you know what?
And structures, institutional structures like schooling and banking, and
foolies.
working. And
I think that
sexual stuff,
I don't think you're talking out of your ass in that, because there is something to be said about, for example, they say, addicts tend to they like the point
they tend to be at the top of the building.
What?
Addicts.
God.
Addicts tend to be at the top of the building. So they usually got pointy.
You motherfucker.
At least in Western
So let somebody say.
culture.
So they say let somebody say somebody starts drinking.
Ghosts live up
yeah,
there.
Yeah. And the bats and the belfry. And
Witches. Sometimes it's just a dude living up there. Sometimes a dude just lives up there for a while, and you don't know he's living in your house.
The belfry is higher than the attic.
Look it up on the internet. It's happened frequently where somebody's just been living in the attic, and somebody's like, "I swear I heard sounds in the house." Look it up. It's creepy. They come out during the day and they eat your cereal. Then they go back up in the
You're
roof.
talking about
in the
Count
attic.
Chocula.
No, they might be eating Count Chocula, but it is not. If you have Count Chocula, but it is not Count Chocula living in your attic. It's just like a regular creepy motherfucker who lives in your attic and comes out during the day and eats your food.
So if you start drinking, let's say somebody starts drinking heavily at like age 21, there is something to be, and they don't stop for 20 years. Now it's not going to be a perfect analog. They're stuck at 21, but mentally, in a lot of ways, they are sort of stuck in that area of time because they've never had to process things, because instead of processing things,
They've alcoholed them.
they've alcoholed up and just sort of avoided them. So if you avoid, and they say that
Sort of a chemically induced arrested development.
right, yeah. So it's like in lieu of making decisions, you're doing something else. And similar things happen to people with trauma, childhood.
Trauma can initiate arrested development.
So I think there is something to be said about that. As far as the attic guy in the what about the belfry is higher than the attic?
People can live in the belfry as well.
But there's bats in the belfry,
and they come down and they eat your yeast and your whey. And whatever else they have.
No mames, whey.
In like the abbey, like where they're brewing beers in the abbey, and then the guy in the belfry, the guy who secretly lives in the belfry that they don't know about. Buenos dias. What are we talking about?
Well, there's bats that live in the belfry, and Count Chocula lives in the attic. Is what you were saying.
No, Count Chocula is just a cereal.
Oh,
it's not even he's not even a vampire officially.
No, you're right. He's just a count. Were we gonna get more into like the Miri Kirk relationship, or did we kind of already cover that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's worth mentioning. We talked a little bit about Kirk. The nice way to think of it is that Kirk is manipulating her, but in a good sense, or at least like a positively motivated manipulation, because he's trying to save them. He's trying to save their own lives, Miri and her friends' lives, etc. Even early on, when they're not entirely sure what's going on, you can assume that it's a reasonable thing to do, to encounter somebody and be like, okay, there's some shit going on here. We need to figure it out. We're maybe not going to be able to be 100% honest with these people. And if this person takes a shine to you, well, I mean, there's a philosophical debate as to the morality of taking advantage of the fact that somebody has taken a shine to you to get them to do what you want. But there's certainly a strong argument to say that, particularly in an emergency situation, maybe that's, if not great or ideal, maybe it's something that you can find some justification to do.
I mean, straight up, Spock near the beginning says, or near the first half says, like, she likes you, Jim. She's becoming a woman, which is like,
that's
she's
where,
becoming a woman.
Exactly. So that's the problem, is that
when they say
the flip
things
side
like that.
Exactly. There's the flip side where it's creepy.
Yeah.
And, Kirk didn't have to like hold her hand.
Right. So, I mean, they go through all this stuff where like, they're saying she's becoming a woman. She's growing up. She's starting to get these feelings. But then on the other hand,
McCoy is straight up like, that girl is honey for you.
Yeah, right.
She's gotten all honey.
But then Kirk and talks about, oh, they're all children. So they like I said earlier, they have this conflicting message of, on the one hand, like she's becoming a woman, but on the other hand, they're all still children. So it's like, it's okay to flirt with her because she's becoming a woman, but we'll ignore the fact that they're children for this part.
What I would say is, you could probably look at it on the page and be like,
look at it.
This is all fine. I'm looking at this on the page. It's all fine. Sometimes it's in the way it's portrayed. Now, I'm not, and by the way, I'm not arguing that it's all fine on the page. I'm saying you could argue that. I'm not necessarily proposing that argument, nor am I necessarily defending it. But you could argue, okay, this is pretty straightforward. But in the portrayal, it is hard to get around the fact, just like the tone Spock used, the tone Kirk uses, because Kirk isn't like, he's flirting with her, right? Like, whether it's a manipulation or not, he's not doing like the old man, like, okay, yeah, she's flirting with me, I'm just gonna be cool and be nice to her or whatever. He's like, no, I'm gonna flirt with her.
On this episode is creepy Kirk. Kirk goes on. This is of Dan's got quotes. Kirk says,
"Dan's got quotes. It's got Dan."
He goes, "What's your name?" She's like, "Miri," and Kirk goes, "Miri. A pretty name for a pretty young woman."
Yes, he
and
called
she's
her
like,
pretty.
Pretty, and he goes, "Very pretty."
Yes,
that was fucking weird.
It was the very pretty that was the problem. I think I would be maybe okay with the first pretty. Yeah, pretty name for a pretty girl. He read it. The way he read the line was a little.
If he was more like, pretty name for a pretty girl, for a pretty girl.
Hey, pretty name for a pretty. Hey,
you want some candy?
Yeah,
well, I don't know. Okay, maybe
you want
not.
some future candy.
Future candy.
Little blue rocks. The second one, the second very pretty. The gauzy look. You know, the all the business that goes around that. That's the creepy business.
And before he discovers the mark on his hand, they're having a conversation. She's like, Jim, I like that name. He's like, good, I like yours too. And he goes, I like you. She's
I
like,
know. Yeah.
She's like, do you really? And he goes, I wouldn't lie to you. And she's like, I wouldn't lie to you either, Jim. Which is also, because she's calling him Jim, it also has a definite sort of implication. Even though I know it's just like she's calling him by his name, somehow it makes it feel different. And then she goes like, I remember the Grups, but you're nice. You're different. And he's like, well, thank you. Or this is why thank you. And then he like puts his hand on her face in this way that's all caressing and creepy.
I also did not like that. And again, chalk it up to 1960s. That's not an excuse. It's like things were creepier in the 1960s. People were creepier in the 1960s. As simple as that.
Yeah.
All right. I guess the main other thing to mention is, and we've touched on it a few times, but it's the whole business with the sci-fi plot of the aging stuff. That I thought was pretty cool. I do like the monkey's paw type sci-fi things. When you can, and they're done well here because it's really sort of like, it's just to set up this structure. Again, it doesn't set it up for what? I don't know. It doesn't have like a super message.
That scene, where Miri is, sharpening pencils, like that's
a weird one.
She's all like, are these enough, Jim? And he's like, we could use some more if you don't mind. And no, I don't mind. That was like a romantic and weird, well, not romantic as in the classic. It's like he was being romantical towards her, but it was also romantical. But it was also weird. On the one hand, he's all like, we could use some more if you don't mind. But on the other hand, like, why was she sharpening so many pencils?
Yeah, they didn't seem to be using them. I guess they were doing some science.
Was that an image to show like she's a schoolgirl sharpening pencils or something?
It was like, creepy because it was not just that. Because yes, I think that's one way to look at it. But I think the other thing that was creepy about it was that it wasn't just that he was sort of flirting with her. That was like a high school manipulation when you're the high school guy that some person has a crush on you and you have no interest in returning their affection.
Right, so you're just keeping them busy?
No, not even keeping them busy. You're having them do stuff for you, even though nothing will come of it.
Yeah.
That was... Right?
He did that earlier with when he told her to clean up the desk. He was like, clean up that desk for me, will you? She's like, all right, Jim. Right.
Yeah, I forgot about the desk thing.
Yeah, he's being all flirty and smiley at her. You're right, to like get her to do shit for him. So it's not just like having her be, cool and helping them get off the planet. He's actually getting her to do menial tasks now, too.
And so the thing is, of course, I bet he would argue, I bet Kirk or the writers would argue, no, we were intending it to be he's keeping her busy, keeping her on the good side, blah, blah, blah. It's just difficult not to interpret it through that pure manipulation thing. And again, that's who's writing the show in this, in this particular era, who's running the show, I should say, because they had plenty of people who maybe wouldn't have had this viewpoint as writers on the show, like DC Fontana, for example.
Well, this I guess brings to the end of the episode. So leading up to that, there's a quote out of context that's kind of fucked up when he goes, "Don't you know why you don't like to play games anymore? Why you don't see your friends the way you used to? It's because you're becoming a young woman, and the moment you become a young woman, you get the disease." All of you.
Yeah, that's creepy.
That's an out of context, like, fucked up comment. Now, of course, they're talking about the disease of getting, the sickness, but he's like, you got the becoming a woman disease. Now I know they didn't mean it that way, but it's kind of a funny out of context
let's take a moment and think about this, because now that you mention it, I would have to think about it, but, even as many times as I've seen this episode, I never really considered that perhaps is consciously or otherwise sort of an association with the dirtiness of the lack of the loss of innocence. If the loss of innocence being associated with disease, it's, I don't know. I'd probably lean into saying no, because it's not like there's no evidence that there was any sort of a sexual relationship. Although, who knows, maybe it's a bit of a chicken and the egg thing. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, did she start to get the disease more quickly because she was attracted to Kirk, or was she attracted to Kirk because she was maturing? Yeah. Presumably the latter. Somebody could probably write an essay suggesting the former, and then implying some sort of patriarchal association between loss of innocence and disease when it comes to young women.
Well, so that brings me to the last line, the joke at the end, which was a clever joke, but it was also kind of weird because Yeoman Rand is going, "Miri, she really loved you, and then Kirk goes, "Yes, I never get involved with older women, Yeoman.
Yeah.
You know, so she's saying, you know, it's kind of clever. It's like, I never get involved with older women because it's funny because it's like she's older, but she's not, haha. But there's also just this like, it's this view of like men sort of like how they treat what kind of women. It's like, I'm not attracted to older women, only younger women, you know. It's like, oh, once they become old, they're useless. Why would I bother to mess with an older woman? That's ridiculous, you know. I'll mess with younger women, but not an older woman, you know. It's sort of this, speaking of sort of patriarchal sort of viewpoints, it's kind of like, haha, of course not. Why would you want to get with an older woman, you know? And I could be looking too deeply into that, but it is kind of like, I think it is representative of an attitude.
Yeah,
of like, I don't know that
it's the surrounding context around that joke.
Yeah.
In order to get the joke, you have to sort of understand that framework of like, of course he's not going to be with an older woman. Are you crazy?
Yeah, that's
insane.
Now, I mean, that aside, it is kind of,
how do you manipulate an older woman?
Right? Yeah,
they're
exactly.
too wily. They're too clever. They're like mice.
Yeah,
scuttling about.
At the end so there was a scene, the scene with McCoy injecting himself with
the antidote or vaccine.
Yeah, so that was an example of created, like, invented suspense.
Yeah.
Because it's like the problem was just basically got solved on its own. It's like, oh no, he took it. Is he going to die?
Yeah.
Like, the only suspense came from, there was no story happening because as of the result of him shooting himself. It was just a solution to the plot. There wasn't like, oh, I shot myself. Now there's story happening around the fact of, am I going to live or am I going to die? No, it's like, you're supposed to be in suspense wondering if he's going to live or die. But of course we know he's not going to die. You know what I'm saying? So usually when there's like some kind of suspense from whether someone's going to die or not, even though we know the hero's not going to die, there's suspense in how he's going to get his way out of the problem. We don't get to in the problem with him shooting himself and surviving, and why there's
shooting
himself up.
By the way, audience, I'll just pass along to you that Dan is repeatedly doing the motion of shooting up as if he were shooting up heroin,
right? Yeah,
as opposed to injecting a vaccine,
right? Yes. So just get that image in your mind.
I'm a little uncomfortable with how well he's miming shooting up heroin.
So in your classic like 80s action movie, you know the action hero is not going to die, but it's how he goes about, how he or she, it would tend to be he back then, how they go about it, you know, and that's what was fun. But the reason that this doesn't work and doesn't build suspense is because it's like, oh, he shot himself with a vaccine. Either he's going to live or he's going to die. There's nothing they can do at this point to make it save him or not save him. We just have to hope he doesn't die, and he doesn't die because he's the hero. So there's no suspense in that. Interestingly, this was exactly the same thing that happened in the animated series episode, the Ambergris incident, with McCoy and everything. There was a scene precisely like this in the Ambergris.
And that was like 1973 or something like that. I think.
That was a few years later. Yeah, where there was a scene where McCoy they were trying to turn back from being fish people into normal people again, and McCoy shot himself up. I'm doing the thing again. and the concern was like, oh no, we don't know the right amount of dosage to give him, and is he going to die? It was the same fucking plot with the same person. So I think they reused that.
Yeah, I think you may be right about that. I think that is very well observed, Dan.
Yeah.
Good job, gold stars. Gold stars all around, in fact. I think we've done a good job on this podcast today.
Were you weirded out when Yeoman Rand was telling Kirk that she used to try to get him to look at her legs? There was that part. She says, I used to try to get you to look at my legs, Captain. Look at my legs. And then they're covered in blue shit. That was like...
Yeah. I mean, it was a little weird. I was more weirded out. There was one scene, it was just a matter of funny editing where Rand gives a funny look towards the camera, and then like the scene switches and she's doing a similar look, but like in a different direction.
That was in the same...
It was just a continuity thing that was just... what it looked like was that a scene had been cut out. It looked like that Rand was like something that she had said, there was like a line of dialogue or something, that she sees something and reacts to it and says something that has been cut out. That's my guess, because it kind of looked like they cut something off, like she was in the middle of something. And then in the next scene, she's in a slightly different position.
Do you remember what scene that was?
No. I do remember, although I could not repeat them at this moment, and I did not have the forethought to cut out clips to play for our audience, which would have been a nice thing to do. But, what are you going to do?
Fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them. We're busy. But yes, there were some musical cues that were really good and not something I've heard a lot on TOS. Some there was a lot of original. I mean, TOS episodes were great for having a lot of original orchestration. TAS episodes, not so much.
Oh yeah,
They had 4 songs they played over and over. But TOS had all its main themes and then the little riffs on the Star Trek.
It's almost like TAS played the same 4 things at certain points in the episode. Like the plot was
algorithmically
the plot adhered to the time in which it was time to play the music. It's like, it's time to play this music. That must mean the plot's here, whether it is or not. Yeah, right. Right.
But TOS often had more bespoke orchestration, compositions for each episode and for certain characters. Plenty of stuff was repeated, of course, like the famous fight music and all that. But this episode, it was one of those ones that had some cues playing, especially around the children and around Kirk talking to Miri. There was a lot of like Miri had like a little bit of a theme going on, which was cool. And I urge everyone to go back and watch the episode and particularly pay attention to the bed of music underneath the Kirk and Miri interactions.
And it kind of would go into like the original series, like the theme song.
Yes.
It kind of wove that into it a
couple times. And that was usually when like somebody would show up, like like Kirk would show up or the hero would show up or something would happen. But good music.
Yeah. I just wanted McCoy said was talking about the disease. He said it was tubular. It's tubular with extreme multiplicity.
And Spock was all like, it was radical.
Radical, yeah, totally tubular. And then Kirk was like,
radical.
Kirk was like, yeah, cowabunga. And then Kirk's like, all the adults are dead, only the children are left alive. And then Spock makes the brilliant statement, but children become adults.
Yes.
That was brilliant.
And then there was that scene where Splinter was all like, he was like, a cowabunga.
I made the funny. Splinter.
Yes, we're talking about 1990 movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Which we referenced earlier in this episode.
The original.
When McCoy shot himself, Spock goes, I will never understand the medical mind. I think that was Spock making a joke.
Yeah, sort of. Or just an insult. Sometimes it wasn't
but I mean, there was a certain amount of wit to it, I guess.
The medical mind.
Yeah.
All right. Any other bits and bobs, odds and ends,
blorps and bleeps?
Final little pieces of information that may be of interest to our audience before we conclude the show with our little ending bits.
Our ending bits
where we explain what's going on next week and
in the future. In the future, they have biocomputers and portable electronic microscopes.
Yeah,
they're electronic microscopes in the future.
I mean, we have electronic microscopes too. I mean, we're in their future, even though we're actually in their past.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Is like way in the future, they've finally got electronic microscopes. So, yeah, the whole scene where McCoy was figuring out like that when they were discovering the tubularness of the thing, when they were like learning about how. When he goes, the last slide I examined, I failed to make the necessary adjustment, the slowing down of my own responses. And Kirk is all like, just get to the point, McCoy. Like, the line didn't make any sense to begin with. It was just kind of what do you mean? You fucked up your analysis because you didn't take into account the slowing of your own responses? I don't know. It was just a throwaway. It was a nonsense line that McCoy made. That's what I'm asserting. And they said puberty 4 times. I don't like that word, puberty.
Tell us a little bit more about why you don't like the word puberty, Dan.
Pubescent, they said 1 time. They said adolescence 1 time. I like the word adolescence.
You're okay with adolescence, but you don't like the terms referencing the process.
Because there's a certain amount of
achieving
because it's almost like onomatopoeia, where it's like the sound of your parts bonking around or something. Puberty, like bonking parts. Like. Is
it because makes you think of like pubic hair?
I don't know, just the puberty.
I mean, but do people go around saying it like no. You're rendering it there?
Bonky bonk, bonk bonk bonk, puberty, bonk bonk bonk. Like.
Are you disgusted by the human body, Dan?
No, it's great. It's just like
it's great
when certain words are used to describe it.
What are some other words you don't like?
So a lot of people aren't fond of the word moist. Moist.
I'm fine with moist. I'm not a huge fan of what's that term? Gentleman's relish.
I mean,
which is worse? Is gentleman's relish or baby batter?
I think baby batter's worse.
Baby batter sounds worse, but it's also cuter. Gentleman's relish has this sort of sheen of sophistication.
Yeah, which
makes it worse, right?
Yeah,
it makes it a little upsetting. By the way, we're talking about semen.
Yeah.
Just to
semen.
be clear.
Yeah.
These are euphemisms for semen, or like gentleman's relish, baby batter.
Well, this word is minorly tangential in that it's not related, but it's along the same subject. I don't like the word smear, like because it makes me think of.
What about schmear? Like if you're getting some like a bagel, like a schmear of something on your bagel. Are you cool with schmear?
I don't hear the word schmear enough, but the
hey, you're not hanging out in the right place.
When I think of smear, I think of spreading poop on toast. That's what I think of when I think of smear.
Okay, but why would you think that?
Because you're smearing poop on things.
No, but I would be maybe smearing some. I mean, granted, to be fair, I wouldn't use the term smear. I would use the term spread. I would be spreading.
Yeah, spreading
peanut butter, some raspberry jam.
Raspberry.
Yeah, raspberry jam.
Raspberry.
Not jelly, jam, or preserves. Right. Ideally preserves, raspberry preserves. Peanut butter on some toast, on some Martin's potato bread.
Well, what do you do
lightly toasted?
When you find poop on the wall in the bathroom, it's because somebody smeared it on there. So imagine doing that to toast.
No, I get it. There's a bit of a flavor of smear.
Don't say flavor when you're talking about smear.
No, you're right, though. I agree with you that there's a bit of a flavor to the term smear.
Yeah. I don't like when people refer to butts as dumpers or poopers.
Oh, I don't like that either.
I think dumper is actually worse than pooper to me.
Yeah, both of them are not great.
Pooper's pretty gross, though.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about Star Trek or what we're doing? Because I'm just going to declare there's nothing else.
Yeah.
That we talked about Miri. That's done.
Because now we're talking about puberty at this point. So.
Pubescent. Okay, we're done talking about that very good, classic, but problematic and weird episode, which is often the case with the original series and, frankly, lots of Star Trek and before 10 years ago.
It was mostly an entertaining episode.
Very entertaining. Well done. Okay, so next week we will feed this episode into the algorithm, and the algorithm will tell us which episode to watch. I think we're probably on Voyager. I think it's probably going to be a Voyager episode. So if you're a Voyager head, which is my understanding as to what the fans of Voyager specifically are Voyager heads, is that the term?
Yeah,
Voyager
if
heads?
you're a Voyager head, you're dead. If you're an Enterprise spleen, you're clean.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm not going to say that worked, Dan. I'm not going to...
You're not going to give me that much credit?
Yeah, I'm not... Well, it's there. We're going to leave it in. We're going to leave it in for posterity. Okay. And to make it easier on me to edit.
Leave it in for posterior?
Yeah. All right. But anyway, so that's what we'll do next week. Social media.
When Kirk shot the phaser, did you notice it was like the effect was all fucked up? It
was a weird effect.
I don't know if they did that on purpose or not.
I think, it was just weird. All right. So next week, check our social media or the website to find out what we are going to watch, probably Voyager or something. Whatever the algorithm tells us to do, that's what we're going to do. The website is located on the normal web, not on the dark web. It's on your regular old web at www.itsgotstartrek.com. And there's all sorts of stuff you can do at the website, so go check it out. You can subscribe to us as a podcast if this is the first time listening. You're like, I really like this. We're on all the major podcasting services, like you got your Apple Podcasts and the Google Podcast and Spotify and Stitcher and all that stuff. RSS feed if you're old school. Whatever you want to do that. Social media, It's Got Star Trek. At It's Got Star Trek everywhere, Twitter, Mastodon, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And of course, we're on YouTube. Many of you are probably listening to us right now on YouTube through your television or something like that.
I'm wondering, I'm seeing things with my eyes, but nothing is moving.
Yeah, you're seeing a static image.
You're probably confused by that. It's okay to be scared.
Vibrant and dynamic audio is coming out of the TV speakers. As it sounds all deep and good. TV speakers have extra bass. We are men. We have voices that go like this.
We talk like this.
We like to talk about Star Trek.
We like to talk like this.
We like to we're absurd people.
Talk like this all the time.
See, this is what happens when Jesse's not here. So
We like to
you can
talk.
also, oh yeah, that's right. You can write us if you want to complain about Jesse not being here. Write to feedback@itsgotstartrek.com, and we will forward all those complaints directly to Jesse's Jesse's inbox.
We like to talk like this all the time. You there. Hello, love. You there.
So
we like to talk like this.
We're gonna
we like to talk like this all the time.
We're gonna turn off the recording, but Dan's gonna
Turning red.
Just a heads up that Dan's gonna be doing this for a little while after the recording ends. Hopefully not until next week. So
now I'm really starting to get amped up. I was only able to stay calm for so long.
Let's do another podcast.
That was me being calm. Oh, another podcast.
Yeah, we'll just do a random Star Trek topic
that we
podcast.
haven't seen in a while.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you
topic. Ooh.
next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.